Hello and welcome back everyone to French Bread's Dark Souls 3 lore run. I am French Bread, or Chris if you prefer. We are basically right back in Irithyll Dungeon where we left off. The only thing I did in between episodes is reinforce our Estus Flask. I thought about farming the jailers here, but then decided against it because pretty soon we're going to get a shot at obtaining the Golden Serpent Ring, which series vets will know is an item that increases your, or is a ring that increases your item discovery rate. And my thinking was, well, since I'm so close to that, why don't I just hold off till I have that in my possession and farming becomes easier. And it's not exactly a pressing concern anyway. So I figure I would take this route instead of running through the dungeon itself. Might be a little bit faster, might not. I think it is. I think it's a little bit faster. Oh, yes, yes. And before we proceed, let's do a very, very quick item roundup. We previously picked up the Pale Pine Resin, which is this game's equivalent to sticky white stuff from Demon Souls. Pale Pine Resin that faintly glimmers temporarily applies magic to right-hand weapon. The blood-red substance sometimes found within suggests there is more to this so-called resin than meets the eye. I wonder if it's blood red because it's blood. Just a thought. Just an impression. We also got the Old Cell Key. Key to the oldest cell in the Irithyll dungeon. The first prisoner of the dungeon was a lone giant. Cells for men were built at his feet. So, the giant let's generously say put to rest, was this dungeon's very first prisoner, and it almost sounds like the rest of the dungeon was built up around him, which is an interesting concept. That key is going to be our ticket to rescuing Sigurd a little bit later on. Hopefully within the scope of this episode. And I'm going to try ever so hard to figure out the Great Axe, because I'm sure it has great potential, but I'm simply squandering it. Eesh. I was gonna say no two for this time, but not even, didn't even get one. Something about chasing two hares, catching neither, I'm sure is relevant for this situation. So, now we are at the very bottom floor of the central dungeon. As you can see, we've got quite a bunch of bullshit waiting for us down here. I am legitimately concerned about dealing with these guys with a weapon as slow as the Great Axe. We're going to explore off to the side before we deal with them. Now here in this brief glimpse of the sky, once again we get a view of that very distinct building in the mountains. And all around here, it looks like on meditation mats are warriors who've come from all over Lothric, really. We got a deserter, A Lothric Knight. This looks to be someone wearing the sellsword equipment. Yeah, and the same business over here. Ugh, they repeated all three, did they? Well, it would have been cool if they were all different, but I understand. There are certain limitations. But most distinct is this brittle, stone-looking, dragon-like, man-like figure. And on its person is the Dragon Torso Stone, which begs to be read right away. Dragon Torso Stone. Stone imbued with the power of the everlasting dragons. Used in a secret rite by dragon worshippers. Gain the torso of a dragon and a dragon's roar. A transformation that is irreversible until death. From ancient times, the path of dragon worship was walked by warriors. It is said that they envision Archdragon Peak in the depths of their meditation, and at times they even hear the distant sound of the great bell at the peak. Warriors in meditation, Archdragon Peak. I think we've figured out, at the very least, the name of that building we keep seeing so often. I'll have to keep it in mind for later, though, because we don't know anything about meditating at the moment. Let's ride the lift up here. See where it takes us. Aimless soldier. And now we get back to the lock gate, I guess what we can call level 2 of the Irithyll dungeon. The bottom level being level 1, the top level being level 3. So this is a nice shortcut for us, in case we need to, heaven forbid, run back. Sitting here with an equally good view of Archdragon Peak is a corpse with the Lightning Blade Miracle in hand. Let us see. Lightning Blade. Miracle allegedly wielded by a certain Dragon Slayer knight in the Age of Gods. Reinforces right weapon with lightning. Tales of Dragon Slayers are now a rare thing, told only in fragments and whispers in remote regions. That's an interesting description. One, I guess for starters, a certain Dragon Slayer knight in the Age of Gods. I would have to believe that the most obvious choice for who they're referring to here is Ornstein. There's another option, but I feel like, given that they referred to this individual as a knight, I think they're referring to Ornstein. But what's even more interesting to me is that Tales of Dragon Slayers being a rare thing, told only in fragments and whispers in remote regions. This may be the fact that these tales are now rare may have something to do with Lothric. We already know that the Knights of Lothric were actually once Dragon Slayers themselves. But after a certain point, they learned to either cooperate or tame dragons, or in the descriptions, wyverns, if you want to make the distinction. And I wonder if their newfound cooperation with dragons means that they were also suppressing tales, suppressing or at least discouraging tales of the dragon slayers of old. And there's even more layers to peel on this, but you know exactly what I'm going to say, right? We'll have to get to it later when we make our certainly triumphant return, right, to Lothric. For now, I don't know why I drink an Estus here. For now, we're gonna head back into the shit, and we're just gonna fight boldly. Just gonna see if we can. Ooh, thank you, AoE effect. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. So very dangerous. He's not even dead. Let us make a tactical retreat. Screw you, buddy. Let's get a pause before we head back in there. We want at least a little bit of health, because in the event that they do hit us before our maximum health has been drained, this might give us a shot at survival. You can come to me. Alright, I'll go to you. Honestly, it doesn't seem like it's their mist which lowers our maximum HP, but rather something about their gaze, I suppose. Till we got another one over here. They are all 100% stingy, don't want to give us any of their gear. As you can tell, these guys are quite distinct from the ones we found basically in the giant area that looked more like looked more like the undead settlement workers. I got distracted by this, we won't say bewitching, we'll say alluring figure. Yeah, that is, without question, if you've played Demon Souls, that is Yuria's armor set. That's even really Yuria's idle state when she's sitting on the ground. The only question is, who is she? Because there's already somebody who's stolen Yuria's name in this game. So this can't be Yuria, right? This has to be someone else. Let's take a look at the armor we just picked up. Perhaps gain some degree of insight. Alva Helm. Protection of Alva, Seeker of the Spurned. This steel helm was trimmed to reduce weight. To this day, troubadours sing of the tales of the wandering knight Alva, and his travels, and of his involvement with the saint and the witch. Needless to say, the songs traditionally end in tragedy. And that's referring to the story I told you guys in the last episode, how he tried to help Saint Soretta, failed, and was at the same time hounded, but eventually became companions with the witch Zully, or Zully. And in the end, he failed to save the saint, but found a new goal in life. Seeker of the Spurned. And we find what I assume to be Alva's corpse huddled up near the cell of this very witchy looking NPC. All in due time, friends. All in due time. Let's do something about this screeching, shall we? And if we're hyper lucky, we're gonna call it hyper lucky, we'll get one of the items of these creatures, so we can get some insight into what the hell they are. Hyper armor! Hyper armor for the hyper lucky. That's my story. Very cool room, by the way. Oh, there's that ability I wanted to show off previously. Hey, hey! I'm feeling the hyper luck. Tailbone Shortsword. Twisted dagger cherished by the wretched prisoners of Irithyll Dungeon. Crafted from a feeble tailbone and seen as a sign of the dragons. Their screams are oft heard inside the dungeon as they naively mutilate their unworthy flesh. Yeesh. And the ability is Unleash Dragon. Thrust the dagger to unleash the strength of dragons. Similar to an ancient dragon weapon, only with its power tragically faded. And that is a neat little reference to weapons like the Drake Sword, or what was it, the Ancient Dragon Greatsword or whatever from Dark Souls 1. It's not a terrible looking weapon. Be fairly tempting if I was building a, or if I was making a dagger build, which one day I swear I shall do. Nice. That is definitely definitely mimicking the Drake sword of old. That classic starter weapon from Dark Souls 1. But perhaps of more interest over here, we have a Profaned Coal. We're going to check that out later when we look at the Profaned Flame Pyromancy we picked up. Because I don't want to quite dive into the Profaned Flame stuff just yet. This place is lousy with mimics. If you haven't had a chance to get your Symbol of Avarice, this isn't a bad place to work on that. Though, really, if you're doing it right... Ow! Please don't. I want to talk. Please don't kill me with your freaking Tatsumaki. Senpukyaku! Let's reorient ourselves. This is not reorientation. Almost got chumped by a mimic. Alright. I was just gonna say, if you're doing it right, farming for mimics involves a bunch of undead hunter charms and not much else. So we got two big important items hidden away in this cell. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but you can tell the relative noteworthiness of an item by the size of its glow. This right here is what you call a key item. Xanthos Ashes. And over here, cover your ears. Dusk Crown Ring. Ooh, I'm gonna wait on talking about those as well. Let's wait until we're prepared to turn in the ashes, because there's some cool stuff to talk about with both those and the profaned nonsense going on. This cell, I don't mind telling you, is basically just a trap. There's nothing in here but an angry crucifix guy, and you don't get anything out of him in particular. But it is interesting to note that not only are we seeing undead worker style dudes, but we also see one of these crucified bestial enemies also associated with the path of sacrifice. Uh-oh. You know, that crack in the wall reminds me of Dark Souls 2. Doesn't this perspective remind you of the starting area? Where you had to proceed past the irritating Firekeeper retirement home before you exited out to Majula. It also reminds me a bit of the, also from Dark Souls 2, the No Man's Wharf. Except the daytime view of it. Or daytime-esque view of it. Something like that. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I'm getting some serious Dark Souls 2 vibes from this area. Let's attempt to cross the bridge. Only to find ourselves blocked by this game's version of the gargoyle. Which, full props for bothering to make a new version of the gargoyle. Dark Souls 2. Now, unfortunately the body fades away, but that gargoyle looked possibly headless to me. I'll have more to say on that later, but I'm not sure. I think that was a headless gargoyle. We got a ladder to descend here, but we can also just scoot down the slope here. Find ourselves within this remnant structure, I suppose, of the Profaned Capital. This place has definitely seen better times. Almost looks like someone's hideaway here, doesn't it? Speaking of someone, a bone shard and the stretch out emote. And laying on the ground here is the unmistakable and frighteningly well preserved corpse of, God, what did he call himself? Laddersmith Gilligan? Something like that. Man, when you look at it zoomed in, it almost looks like it's breathing. Okay, good. I don't know what your feelings about Laddersmith Gilligan were, but I hated this punk. So, it pleases me to see him in such a state. Which is really a nice change of pace, because I've been getting bummed out by all the cool NPCs and old friends we've had to basically step over the bodies of. It's nice to see someone who had it coming face an end such as this. Alright. I am thinking the best thing to do right now is going to be an item roundup. We'll do an item roundup. We'll hit Firelink's Shrine to turn in some stuff. And then see where we're at, but I think we'll probably be close to calling it from there. Well, it doesn't look comfortable, but that's where we're at. Okie dokie. Let's see. No new regular old items. Nothing going on in the gems. Key items are going crazy though. Let us start with the Profaned Coal, which enables dark, lacerating, and hollow infusion. Coal used for weapon infusion. Remnants of the fire that burned down the Profaned Capital, preserved in an icy skull. So, the Profaned Capital was burned down by a certain, reasonable to assume, Profaned Flame. I suppose whatever happened with the Profaned Flame is what's responsible for the current state of this capital. Before we look at the Xanathos stuff, let's check out the other profaned items, or item. We also got the Profaned Flame Pyromancy. Pyromancy deriving from the Profaned Flame. Engulfs foes at range and burns them to ashes. The Profaned Capital was consumed by fire after Yorm the Giant became a Lord of Cinder. The fire, born from the sky, is said to have incinerated naught but human flesh. So the description here tells us, one, that the Profaned Flame scorched only humans, only human flesh. But what I'm curious is that when it says human, does it mean living humans? Or does it mean like regular old humans and undead as well? Was this a flame which scorched only the living and left the hollows afterwards? I don't have an answer, but it's worth thinking about. Also, it seems to be the result of Yorm's linking or inheriting of the fire. I guess this counts. Pickaxe. Tool used by a miner for digging up earth. Not intended for use in battle. Yet, the strong downward swing of this tool once shattered large boulders and easily punctures weaker armor. So, yeah, no lore on that, but is good pickaxe. Oh, and we didn't pick this up anywhere in the dungeon or Profaned Capital, but I actually got this while I was farming for heavy gems. Stone Great Shield. A mossy stone disc. Though terribly heavy, it can serve as a shield. The disc is a relic of ancient magic, and one can practically feel the power flowing through it. So this is the shield that was used by the Stone Knights, or the Stone Giants, from Dark Souls 1, who resided in the Darkroot Garden. Seeing as I got this from the Profaned Keep and those giant Gru-like creatures, I think that's just another bit of evidence linking Profaned Keep to the Darkroot Garden. Don't believe we have any new gear. And I don't believe we have any... Well, we do have a new ring. We have the Bellowing Dragon Crest ring. A special ring given to those who are deemed fit to undertake the journey of discovery in Vinheim, home of sorcery. This is just a general sorcery boosting item. Seems to have basically the exact same description as the Lingering Dragon Crest ring. So we're not gonna really dwell on it at all. You got the Dark Clutch ring, but it has the same description as all the other clutch rings. And we got Aldrich's Ruby actually some time ago. But as you can see, the description is identical. The only thing that's different is the shape of the gemstone is slightly different. And the sapphire seems to have a sinuous, almost resembling the dark sign as it appears on a hollow's flesh. Whereas this one has a very distinct wormy look to it. Alright. That examined. Let's go and check out the... Oh, no. No. I forgot about the Dusk Crown Ring. Leaf-colored crown ring bestowed upon the Princess of Ulasil, ancient land of golden sorceries. Reduces spell FP consumption, but also lowers HP. Ulasil is synonymous for its lost sorceries, of which the Xantha scholars are dedicated... My apologies. Of which the Xanthus sorcerers are dedicated scholars. This crown ring is a rare artifact of great magic heritage. So the fact that this ring and the ashes of a Xantha scholar were discovered in that cell, I believe leaves little doubt that a pair of them were locked up for whatever reason. Probably by Pontiff Sullivan, honestly. Maybe he didn't have any use for Xantha scholars poking around his part of town. Let's check out these ashes. Xanthos Ashes. Umbral ash of a sorcerer who explored the golden sorceries of a long-lost land. With this, the shrine handmaid will prepare new items. They were called Xantha scholars, but some foolishly imitate them by simply dressing in yellow. We can see this particular ash is gripping a bit of yellow cloth. I wonder if this item right here isn't the new insight into Xantha's king, Jeremiah. A man who displayed no use of sorceries and instead was basically just a pyromancer. I wonder if he was just imitating these scholars by dressing in yellow, and his imitation got him locked up in the painted world. That, or he was genuine, and he was just searching for sorceries in the painted world. No way to know for sure, but it does allow for the possibility, doesn't it? Alrighty. We've rested and talked enough. It's time to head back to Firelink Shrine so we can talk some more. Let us improve our Estus Flask and turn in the Xanthos ashes.
Oh, how gracious. Let I...
Alright, let's see what she's got for us. Actually, I'm going to buy these while I'm here. It's kind of a relevant item, isn't it? Ah, here's a fun thing. She now sells an unlimited supply of gold pine resin. And given the reference to the mushroom people from Darkroot Garden and Ulasil, makes perfect sense that this golden resin is now in stock. No new weapons or shields. We do get access to some new armor. Xanthos overcoat. Yellowish overcoat covering a band of brass medallions. Xanthos clothing is the mark of a researcher of lost sorceries, and the number of medallions denotes their success. A point of pride for the researchers, even if its significance is lost on others.
Ashen Matnon.
Let's temporarily break fashion so that we can show this off. I actually quite adore the Xanthos set in this game. I liked its blinding yellowness in Dark Souls 1, but it looks properly awesome here in Dark Souls 3. The medallions are a really nice touch, and they remind me quite a bit of Dommel of Xena's armor, and Armor of the Glorious, something like that. Each piece had a different name. Maybe it was Armor of the Conqueror, who knows. As you can see, beyond the medallions, the hand has some sort of strange, I guess it's just a cloth wrapping, but it also looks like it may have some sort of fungal element as well. Very cool armor. Definitely one of my favorite sets in the game. Well, I don't wear the head too often, but the rest of it I think is quite badass, if a bit fungusy. But let's get back to what we had on before. There'll be a time and a place for me to revisit the Xanthos set. I do believe that settles us for what we've got going in the shrine at the moment. So I know we're running low on time at this point, but let's head back into the Profaned Capital. We'll do just a little bit more exploring. Yeah, I think I've decided on a good end point. We'll have to hustle a bit to get there. As long as we're not too foolish and don't die, we should be okay. Interesting statue of scholars, or scholarly-like men, lifting pillars, or possibly torches onto their shoulders. I wonder... I wonder about these. Sorry. I'm gonna have to think more about that. I never really paid attention, but... all these skyward glances. Is this yet another man or figure? No, he looks like he's in the middle of pontificating on something. It seems that the Profaned Capital had very interesting culture. Indeed, if there's so many statues dedicated to these scholarly-looking men. Where are all the scholarly-looking women, though, huh? We have another variation of our gargoyle friend. And there he goes. He had a hammer instead of a spear. I think I'll try to get that hammer for a future weapon trial. All these guys haphazardly arrayed about. Can't get distracted. Let's head in this side path, where we do have a handful of crystal lizards. Just waiting for me to greet them. Also, plenty of pitfalls into what is most certainly more poisonous swamp area. This is a particularly nasty pitfall right here because it's right at the top of a set of stairs. Makes it a lot harder to notice than the other ones. And as we enter out into this area, you can see very interesting, very kind of like Greco-Roman sort of inspired architecture. Somebody's waiting for us up top too. Seems like the Profaned Capital has some very distinct comparisons to, at least visually, to ancient Greece. Ow. Yeah, the return of the sewer centipedes and a poison, or rather a toxic swamp. Just in case we... Okay, we're good. I'm passing up a lot of things below here, but we'll be back in the next episode. Right now I just want to press on to a certain event that I feel like is a good place to end our episode at. He hasn't noticed us yet, so let's proceed this way first. As we come up here, we're back in the Earthel dungeon. You might be able to recognize that as the bridge connecting back into the central dungeon. This is where the giant was. But we seem to be encountering some obstacles. If any of you were paying attention, you might have known that before before we saw the visage of jailers in this window, they are non-hostile until you head down this hallway and pick up the item at the end of it. Jailer's keyring. We will check that out next time. Uh-oh. This dude noticed us. Whoa! Danger me. Didn't realize I was that low on health. It's probably that freaking, that freaking jailer drained my health without me noticing. Logan scroll. We'll have to have patience. We are getting to the point I want to end at, which is good because my voice is also kind of going. Never a good idea to do 2 episodes in a row without a break to get something to drink, let me tell you.
My liberation.
Yeah, we got that key, man. In the corner, gold serpent ring.
Ah. You are a saint. Once again, you are my valiant savior. I, Siegfried of Katerina, express my deepest gratitude. Take this, a token of my thanks. Go on. It's all yours.
Just like Siegmeyer, eventually we get a Titanite slab out of this deal. They're not as rare as they are in Dark Souls 1, but they're still pretty nice to have.
Ah, no, please. Go on ahead. I've my own road to take, and a duty to fulfill. Very soon. Ah, no, and
Much more somber than he's ever been before. You can sense the end of Sigurd's quest on the horizon. But this is where I'm going to end it for today. I thank you all for watching. I hope you'll join me next time when we finish exploring this area and we undoubtedly take on the area's boss. Until next time though, have a good one everyone.